it's Amanda from Loops and Love Crochet, and today I'm working on making tassels using my Clover Tassel Maker. As you can see, I have a variety of sizes of tassels made here, and you can add tassels to a variety of projects, including crochet projects or making jewelry. Tassels are a fun little embellishment to add onto pillows or blankets. Today I'm going to be making a tassel to add onto this crochet bag here. I'm going to make a little zipper pull with a tassel that makes it a little bit easier to open and close the zipper, but also looks super cute too. So this Clover Tassel Maker here is the smaller size. When you get your Clover Tassel Maker, the packaging here, it has a few ideas of what you can use tassels for. So whether you're making earrings or a little necklace or adding them to a bag, there's a variety of things that you can do with tassels. And then the back kind of gives you a quick little rundown on how to make the tassels. And this is the smaller size tassel maker, so you can make three sizes, 1 3/16 inches, 1 9/16 of an inch, and 2 inches in length here. And there is also a larger size version too, if you want to make ones that are larger than 2 inches. And your package also comes with instructions here that are explained more in depth on how to make the tassels with picture instructions too. So the first thing to do when you're using your tassel maker is to decide what size of tassel you'd like to make and what kind of yarn or string that you'd like to use to make your tassel. So these tassels here, these bigger ones, I made using worsted weight yarn, and I added some fun little beads after too. And I also have ones that I made using just embroidery thread as well. So you can see I have the small, medium, and large sizes here, and it also depends, the size of your tassel also depends on how many times you wrap your yarn or string around the tassel maker here. So this one here is a fuller tassel because I wrapped it more times, whereas these ones I wrapped a little bit less too. So you can kind of change the look of your tassel by wrapping it more or less times, cutting it longer or shorter, and adding fun little beads or using different kinds of string to tie the top of your tassel. Today I'm going to be using worsted weight yarn here. I'm going to make a tassel for this bag here, so I'm going to use coordinating colors. So I'll be using this yarn here, this gray color, and then I'll probably use either the light pink or the dark pink to tie around the tassel to kind of give it a little bit of an accent, but also still match my little bag here. So I'm going to be using the large size of tassel here. So to change the size of the tassel that you'd like to make, you just need to unscrew the little knobs here, and then you can slide your maker to 3 different sizes here. So I'm going to make it to the largest size, and then I'm going to tighten it up, and you just want to make sure the little lines also match up when you tighten it. And I'm not going to tighten it super tight because I like to be able to slide the yarn in to hold it in place as I wrap it, and if I wrap it too tight, it's hard to hold the yarn there. So there's a larger size there. And then you're going to start out with your yarn or string, whether you're using yarn or embroidery thread or crochet thread or whatever you'd like to use. And what you're going to do to start with is you are going to put the end of the yarn or string just underneath that little spot there that's used to hold your yarn or string in place. And if it doesn't really hold very well, I like to loosen it a little bit just so I can tuck it a little bit under. And then I'm going to start wrapping my yarn here. Now this one here, these ones are wrapped about 12 times. Whereas this one's wrapped about 10 times. So you can kind of change based on the type of tassel that you'd like to use, or the size of tassel. So I'm going to wrap it 10 times here to start with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'm going to bring my yarn up and then I'm going to wrap it underneath the other end there to hold it into place. So there's my 10 wraps of yarn on my tassel maker. If you're using a thinner yarn or string like this embroidery thread, this one I wrapped about 25 times. So that's just the difference in using a thinner thread here. All right, so I'm just going to cut this here. Okay, so next I'm going to take a piece of my yarn here, and I'll just cut it off. And I'm going to make the loop that goes on the top of my tassel. So just a little loop here. And you can decide how long or short you'd like that loop to be. So I just have my piece of yarn, and I'm just going to tie it into a knot. Okay, and there we are. And now I'm going to put it into the center of my yarn here that's wrapped, and I'm just going to tuck it all the way through so it's in the middle in between layer. And you just want to make sure that where the knot is inside, that it's below the center of the tassel maker. So depending on the size of tassel you make, there's these arrows on the side here. And these arrows are going to show you what is the center of your tassel here. So where the larger arrow is, it's kind of where the screw is as well, but there's a larger triangle there. Because I'm using the larger size of the tassel maker, or the largest size, I'm going to be looking there as my middle reference point, and my knot is in back here, so it's below the center, so that's good. And if I was using the medium or the small, when I slide these closer together, if I was using the medium size tassel, I'd be looking at the medium size arrows. And then if I was making the small one, if you slide it all the way closed, these two will line up in the center for the smallest size of tassel. Okay, so next I'm going to take another piece of my yarn in the same color as my tassel. And I'm going to wrap it around my wrapped yarn here. And then I'm just going to tie it, and I'm making sure that I'm lined up in the middle of my tassel, so using those arrows there. And remember, your knot is kind of buried down below there. So I'm going to tie it nice and tight, and I'll make a double knot. And there we go, and I'm just going to cut that. I'm not going to cut it too short because it kind of just becomes part of the tassel after. Whereas if you cut it too short, you can have little ends sticking out sometimes too. Okay, so the next step here is to take our tassel off the tassel maker. So I'm just going to hold the knot in place with my thumb and finger here. And I'm going to use this little ridge at the top to cut the yarn. So I'm going to hold it. Okay, and continuing to hold it, I'm going to cut the bottom too. And there we go. And this you can just put to the side. All right, so now you can kind of move the string with the knot on it to around the middle of your tassel. And if the knot is kind of below, you can pull it up a little bit. But you don't want to pull it too hard in case you pull the knot straight through your tassel. So I'm just kind of playing around with the top of my tassel to make sure it's full on around all the sides there. And my string is coming out of the middle. And if you see the little tails of string or yarn sticking out from where you tied your knot, you can just cut those shorter because they're knotted inside. And there you are. So our last step here is going to be, or our last two steps, I guess. We're going to add the head to our tassel by tying some yarn around it, and then we're also going to trim our tassel so it's nice and even. So making the string that goes around the top of the tassel here, I'm going to be using the light pink here, the accent color for my bag, so I'm just going to pull off some of that. Now I find this part to be the hardest part of making the tassel, so it's pretty easy so far, but this part here, not that hard, but it took me a little while to figure out how to hold my hands here to wrap the yarn properly. So we don't want to have a knot showing on the front of the tassel, so I'm going to be tying this knot in a special way where the knot is underneath the wrapped yarn. So I'm going to start by making a little, well, first I'm going to hold my tassel with I'm going to use my left hand, but it depends if you're more comfortable with your left or right hand. So I'm going to hold my tassel, and I'm going to pick up my yarn, and I'm just going to kind of twist it together there. So I just kind of cross the yarn over each other, and I'm going to place that on top of my tassel, and I'm going to hold it in place with my thumb. And then the top of the string is just going to be laying out here. Now I'm going to be using this end to wrap around my tassel. So I'm continuing to hold this loop here, wrapping my tassel as many times as you'd like. And then when you're done, you're going to send the end of your yarn or string through that loop that you were holding. And then I'm just going to pull on this tail until the knot is underneath my band that I just made from wrapping the yarn. And once it's underneath there, I'll just give it a pull, and I'll make it nice and tight. There we are, and then once you pull it nice and tight, you can use your scissors to cut both ends there. And then you can kind of play with the band to be over top of your little ends there so you don't see them. And there we go. So now we're just going to shape our tassel. You can kind of, if there's some little ends that are sticking up, you can kind of give them some gentle little tugs here until it's the shape that you'd like it. And you can also slide the band up or down depending on the placement, wherever you like it. And now I'm going to be trimming my tassel here to make it nice and even on the bottom. Okay, so to trim my tassel, I'm just taking a rolled piece of paper here. It's actually just one of my yarn labels here. And I'm going to put my tassel inside of it. And then I'm just going to give my tassel a little pull, smoothing out these ends here until it gets to the length that I like it and where these ends line up. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim along the bottom of the paper. So I'll do it on this side. I'm just going to flip it around, make sure that it's nice and straight. Make sure that you're holding your tassel straight too. I was holding mine a little diagonally, so I just need to trim that again. And depending on how long or short you want your tassel to be, that'll depend on where you are trimming it. There you go. So when you pull that off, you can kind of fluff it around a little, and there we go. So there's our little tassel here to add to my tassel collection. And then I'm going to be adding that to the zipper here of this bag here to make it nice and easy to pull, and kind of adds a little bit little bit of an extra fun embellishment here, I think anyways. Okay, so just before I add my tassel to the zipper there, I just added a few cute little beads to the top of the tassel just by threading them on there. And I'm just going to tie that into a knot to hold the beads in place. There we go. And then lastly, I'm just going to decide if I'm going to tie the tassel on or just loop it around. So if you want to loop your tassel around, what you can do is take the end of your little string there, and you can thread it through. I'm just using my yarn needle. It's a little bit of a squeeze, but it works. And then I'm just going to put that through the zipper. It's just a lot easier to get it through the zipper when you're using the needle. And then you can just take your tassel and feed it through the other end of the string. And then you can use that for your knot to hold the tassel in place. So depending on how long or short you want that to be, if it's a little bit too long, you could also just cut it and then tie it in place if you'd rather, or you could add another knot to it to bring it up a little bit more. But there you go, that's what the tassel looks like on the bag here. And I can zip and unzip it, and I think it looks extra cute with a little tassel on it. Anyways, I hope you liked this video tutorial on using the Clover Tassel Maker here. And I'll add a link in the video information if you would like to check out the Clover Tassel Maker as well. And I'll also add a link in the video information to the crochet pattern for making this tassel bag, as well as the written tutorial for the tassel maker, making your own tassel too. I hope you found this video tutorial helpful, and I'd love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow Loops and Love Crochet on Facebook and on Instagram. Thanks for watching.